Did you know that the way you're breathing could be slowly destroying your connection with God? You might not even realize it, but shallow breathing is pulling you further from the spiritual depth you crave. Keep watching, because this isn't just about physical health. This is about your spirit and your soul. Breathing, it's something we do every day, yet most of us never think about it. We rush through our days, taking shallow breaths without realizing the damage it's causing. But what if I told you that shallow breathing isn't just a physical issue? It goes much deeper than that. It's affecting your spirit, your connection to God, and even your ability to hear His voice clearly. Let's dive into why this simple act of breathing could be the key to unlocking a more profound spiritual life. Most of us live in a constant state of stress and distraction. We rush from one task to another, barely pausing to think about the way we breathe. And it's not just the stress. We're so wrapped up in our daily routines, in the noise of the world, that we've forgotten how to breathe deeply, how to take in the fullness of life that God has blessed us with. Shallow breathing has become our default mode. And this is where the problem lies. Shallow breathing is more than just an unhealthy habit. It's a spiritual barrier. When we breathe shallowly, we're not just depriving our bodies of oxygen. We're depriving our spirits of the fullness of life that God intends for us. Our breath is a gift, a physical manifestation of the Spirit. Remember in Genesis when God breathed life into Adam? That breath wasn't just air. It was spiritual energy. It was life itself. So when we take short, shallow breaths, we're limiting that divine connection. You might be wondering, how does shallow breathing affect your spirit? Well, let's start with the basics. Shallow breathing keeps your body in a constant state of low-level stress. It triggers your body's fight or flight response, keeping your mind anxious, distracted, and disconnected from the present moment. And what happens when your mind is anxious? You can't focus on prayer, meditation, or spiritual growth. Think about the last time you were trying to pray or meditate, but found it hard to concentrate. Your mind was likely racing with thoughts, worries about your day, distractions from your phone, or just a general sense of unease. Now ask yourself, were you breathing deeply, or were your breaths short and shallow? It's more likely the latter. Shallow breathing keeps your mind and body in a state of alertness, making it hard to relax, let alone connect with God. When you're breathing shallowly, your mind is focused on survival, not on thriving in God's presence. You're stuck in a loop of worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, both of which keep you from experiencing the peace and stillness where God speaks to you. You can't fully listen to God when your body is in a state of tension. Shallow breathing cuts you off from the present moment, where God's voice is clearest. But shallow breathing doesn't just affect your mental state. It also has an emotional and spiritual toll. When you're breathing shallowly, you're more likely to feel anxious, overwhelmed, or even spiritually drained. That's because your body isn't getting the oxygen it needs to function at its best. Oxygen is not just fuel for your body. It's also vital for your brain and your emotional well-being. Spiritually, shallow breathing distances you from the sense of peace and calm that comes with being in God's presence. It's hard to hear the still, small voice of God when your mind is racing and your heart is pounding. You may have noticed that during moments of deep prayer or worship, you naturally breathe more deeply. That's because deep breathing allows you to enter a state of relaxation and receptivity, where you can hear God's voice more clearly and feel His presence more profoundly. But here's the thing. Shallow breathing has become a habit for many of us. We're so used to living in a state of stress, rushing through our days, that we don't even realize we're doing it. Over time, shallow breathing becomes our default mode, and it starts to take a toll on our bodies, minds, and spirits. We start to feel disconnected from God, from ourselves, and from the people around us. And it's not just emotional or spiritual disconnection. Shallow breathing can also have a significant impact on your physical health. When you breathe shallowly, you're not getting enough oxygen into your bloodstream, which means your organs and muscles are working with less fuel. This can lead to fatigue, headaches, and even more serious health issues over time. You might feel more tired, more irritable, and less capable of handling life's challenges. Why? Because shallow breaths limit the oxygen that reaches your brain and muscles, making everything feel harder. When your body is tired, your spirit feels drained too. This makes it harder to feel joy, to worship, and to stay in tune with the Holy Spirit. The irony is that we have this incredible tool, our breath, that can bring us back into alignment with God's will and peace, yet we often neglect it. Deep breathing is more than just a way to calm down. It's a way to open up to God's presence, to quiet our minds, and to find stillness in a world that is constantly demanding our attention. God calls us to live fully, abundantly. But how can we do that when we're barely getting enough air to survive, let alone thrive? The deeper connection you seek with God, the peace and clarity you long for in your spiritual life, could start with something as simple as your breath. The answer lies in conscious, deep breathing, what some call breathwork. This isn't just about taking deep breaths for the sake of it. It's about reconnecting with the breath of life that God has given you. When you breathe deeply, you slow down your mind, you center yourself, and you open up space for God to enter. You move from stress to peace, from distraction to focus, from shallow living to deep spiritual awareness. Think about when you pray or meditate. How much more focused would you be if your breath was calm and steady? When you breathe deeply, you're able to enter into a state of relaxation where you can truly listen to God. In the Bible, God's voice often comes in moments of stillness. Elijah heard God in a still, small voice, not in the noise or the chaos. Deep breathing helps you find that stillness. Deep breathing also improves your ability to worship. When your body is calm and relaxed, your spirit is free to connect with God in a more profound way. You can focus more on His presence and less on the distractions around you. Worship becomes more about the experience of connecting with God and less about the routine of going through the motions. And it's not just about prayer or worship. Deep breathing can transform your daily life. When you take a moment to breathe deeply before reacting to a stressful situation, you're giving yourself the space to respond with love and patience, rather than out of fear or frustration. You're allowing the Holy Spirit to guide your actions, rather than letting your stress take over. Try this right now. Take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it for a moment, and then slowly release it through your mouth. Do it again, but this time, feel your body relax with each breath. Notice how your mind quiets down. This is where you can hear God more clearly. This is where your spirit can rest in His presence. Deep breathing also reminds us of the connection between our physical and spiritual selves. Our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, and by caring for them, by breathing deeply, we honor the Spirit within us. It's a way of aligning ourselves with God's design. After all, if He gave us breath, shouldn't we use it fully? Shallow breathing may seem like a small thing, but its effects are profound. It's not just about health. It's about your spirit. When you breathe deeply, you open up space in your heart and mind to connect with God on a deeper level. You slow down, you focus, and you allow the peace of God to fill you. Don't let shallow breathing hold you back from the spiritual depth you crave. The next time you feel anxious, distracted, or disconnected from God, pause and take a deep breath. It might just be the key to unlocking a new level of spiritual awareness.